Thanks for joining us for Pirates Path Career Lessons Learned. I'm your host, Scott Francis, the president of the ECU Alumni Association. We're glad you've joined us wherever and however you are joining us. Thanks for making us and thanks for making ECU part of your day. I hope that everybody is staying happy and safe and healthy and well. The Pirates Path program is a series of conversations with great pirates with cool jobs and interesting career stories and paths to where they are today. Part of the joy that we get from alumni work is giving pirates out there the opportunity to reflect on their student days and their journey to where they are now. Our hope is that hearing some of these great stories, you'll glean some interesting strategies or tales of overcoming adversity that you can apply to your journey as well. Today, we are happy to bring you Lindsay McCormick, ECU class of 2007. As we get started, some quick ground rules and format info for you. So first of all, we are recording this session so that our friends who couldn't be here can access it later, and it'll go on our website. So please note that it will record both our screens and the chats. We'll get started by asking our guests some questions, but at any time you can ask a question in the chat or in the word bubble right there labeled a Q&A in the user menu at the bottom of your screen. So now it's my pleasure to introduce our guest. Lindsay has an incredible story to share that's loaded with sound advice for anyone toying with a great idea and a dream. Lindsay is the founder and CEO of Bite, a plastic-free personal care company that has been featured in Women's Health, Cosmopolitan, O Magazine, and Shark Tank, where she turned down a six-figure offer from Mark Cuban. Lindsay was named one of Fast Company's most creative people in business, and Bite, being a certified carbon neutral, cruelty-free company, was named one of Business Insider's companies to bet your career on in 2021. She remains committed to running Bite with a people and planet first mindset, proving that businesses can be used as a force for good. Lindsay graduated from ECU in 2007 with a Bachelor of Arts in Communication and currently resides on the West Coast in sunny Southern California. Lindsay, thank you for joining us today for Pirates Path and to join our alumni. How are you?
I'm great, thanks. Thanks so much for having me, Scott. I'm even wearing my ECU t-shirt today. I still representing so many years later.
Absolutely. So we started doing these about a year ago, and the opening question was always, how are you? How's everything? What's life like? And by now, that's probably normal now. So I don't know about you, but I watch TV shows and see crowds and nobody wearing a mask. And I'm like, oh, that was from 1999. Okay. So I guess the question now is, this has become a where were you when type of situation. So do you remember where you were when things kind of got shut down?
Yeah, so we actually it's a little bit of a crazy story because it kind of marks the same anniversary of when our Shark Tank episode aired. So we had filmed Shark Tank, months before the pandemic. I mean, back almost actually up to a year, like almost a year before. And we were waiting for our episode to air, and we got an air date that was, I think it was March 9th. And then March 12th was when kind of the world had ended up shutting down. So it's like our year anniversary is also the year that our Shark Tank episode aired. So we were here still in the marina in our apartment, and we watched the episode, and then literally within a few days, it was kind of all the changes that had happened. So
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it, from the year going forward was very different, and we'll certainly get back to how you got here. But first, your origin story, if you will. So you're in sunny Southern California now, and we'll talk about how you got there. But where do you call home when someone says, "Where are you from?" Where do you call home?
So I've been in California now for 12 years. So it's definitely starting to feel like home, but I grew up right outside DC in Northern Virginia.
Okay. And now Arlington, I forget, is it Arlington?
Oh, yeah, Vienna. So Vienna. So, and I went to Marshall High School. So right where in that area. It's a great place. My parents actually, I still go home to visit all the time. So I love the East Coast.
Yeah. So growing up, I knew a handful of kids who grew up knowing exactly what they wanted to do. And when I say handful, literally like 5 or less, that, you in middle school, you could say, what do you want to be? And they they knew it right off the top of their head. So I don't imagine you grew up running around the neighborhood telling third graders that you wanted to develop an environmentally conscious dental hygiene product. So do you remember what you wanted to be growing up?
That's very true. I definitely had no plans to be running like a plastic-free oral care company. It was not anywhere remotely on my radar. I love it, but it's definitely not the path that I thought I was going to be taking. When I went to ECU, I was a communications major and a interdisciplinary studies minor with like a focus on international studies. I loved traveling. I loved media. So anything that was storytelling, traveling, I really liked. I didn't know what I wanted to do at all. I figured with communications, like I was playing to my skill set more than knowing what I wanted to do with my life. And I figured if I just kept on following the things that I was interested in and wanted to do, then I would eventually kind of find my way into a career path. I remember actually being at the student center in like our ECU student center, or like the career center. And I was like on their computers searching. And I remember finding this little town called Ocean Beach in California. And it's like in San Diego. And I was like, oh, I want to live there after college. And I remember like sitting there, just kind of doing that study. And the reason I wanted to live there is because there was no Starbucks in it. Like the town had like boycotted Starbucks. And I was like, I want to live in that little hippie town. I was like, I'll make documentaries, like and so like that was kind of the path. Definitely, I did make it to California. I didn't end up going to Ocean Beach. I actually stayed in Los Angeles because this is a really good place to make content. But that's kind of how it all started.
Nice. And so you mentioned how you found your path. How did you find your way to ECU? So you graduated from Marshall High School. How did you end up at ECU, and kind of what was your first exposure?
Yeah, so one of my best friends from high school was actually 2 years older than me. Her name's Anjali Hemphill, and she's actually a reporter now in New York, and she went to ECU. She's one of those few people that knew what she wanted to do, and she's doing that exact thing. And so she was an ECU journalism major. She was 2 years older than me. And so when it was my senior year, it was her sophomore year, and I went down to ECU for the weekend to visit her and stayed with her, and we just had so much fun. And we had, we were friends, we were really similar interests, and she was really into, she was journalism and I was more media, but I could just see that it was a really great place to call home for college. And so we went to, she had taken me to a football game, we went to Bojangles, the whole, ECU experience, and I was like, okay, this is where I want to go.
Excellent. So did you live on campus your freshman year?
I did, in ACOC on College Hill. Yeah, I lived in the third floor.
Third floor. And were you involved as a student, either in student organizations or working?
I was. So I always had a job. So I worked at one of the bars downtown. I also worked at I kind of like worked at different places, McAllister's for a little while. But on campus, I was a DJ for WZMB. I did the Roots Rock Reggae show on Sundays, and it was so fun. It was like my favorite thing. So I did Roots Rock Reggae at WZMB, and then I was on the snowboarding team. So, and we were at the time, our girls team was like second in the nation, and we traveled all over the US for snowboarding competitions, and it was super fun. It was like I don't know what it's, now I'm remembering, it's not like intramural or rec, but whatever the snowboarding team was at the time, that's what I was on.
Something might be wrong with my sound. It sounded like you said snowboarding team.
I know, ECU, where it's flat with no snow. So people were like, they were floored when we came and we were good. Like they were like, wait, what? And so yeah, it was really fun. And really lots of my friends were on the team, and it was really great. I definitely I recommend. And it's a great thing too, because when you're in college, it was a way for me to be able to snowboard every weekend, and it was affordable because we were part of the team. So yeah, it was really, I loved it.
Nice. Shout out to Club Sports at ECU.
Yeah.
So it's fall Saturday while you're in school.
Mm-hmm.
What's your home football game routine? Did you have a typical setup and game day kind of routine?
It was different. I was thinking about that. It was kind of different every year, so when we were in the dorms, it was going over to the, to the field. But then I lived in, I've lived kind of all over the place, but we would basically all meet at a friend's house beforehand, and then whoever lived closest to the stadium, so we didn't have to, like worry about parking or anything. And we would all just be there and then end up like at the game. And we definitely were not the ones who were there like right when the game started. We'd kind of trickle in, but we typically made it. And it was always a fun way to spend a Saturday.
Nice. It's like a progressive tailgate.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and we didn't, yeah, exactly.
Very cool. So as we know, embarking on the journey of adulthood isn't easy, and it doesn't just happen. At the time, it might feel like it's just kind of happening. But can you think of anyone or the folks who were most influential in your student experience, be that another student, an administrator, a group, an event?
Yeah, I loved, there was, I mean, so many things at ECU it's, college is such a impactful time. You're really figuring out like what you want to do and kind of who you want to be when you get out of like the bubble of like childhood, and so for me, I was so lucky to have like really, really, really great friends. And then the faculty, like I remember I took a bunch of, I don't even know if he's still there, Dr. John Howard in communications. He was in communications. I took a bunch of his classes, and he was just so enthusiastic about just teaching and everything they did. It was so cool because I was so interested in it as well. And so it was really fun to be in classes like that. And then I took a class, her name, she was a teacher or like a professor, but she went by Tara, like her first name was Tara, and she taught anthropology of the world. And so I took that class and I loved it. And she recommended, I was doing volunteer work with the International Student Center. And so she had recommended that I apply for a ECU scholarship. And I actually got to go to Morocco and teach English through ECU and take French. So I took French and and that was through her recommendation. So yeah, and that trip was amazing.
Let me update the scoreboard here. Snowboarding, silver medal, taught in Morocco.
Yeah.
Awesome. What a great experience.
Yeah.
And Linda Keene, our friend Linda Keene, says John Howard is still here.
Oh, wonderful. He was great. He's really, really great.
So, all right, so it's spring break of your senior year, early to mid-March. People are starting to ask, so what are you doing next year? Do you have an answer to that question at that point? Does that make you smile or does that make you sweat?
That question, you just stressed me out so bad. I was like, stop asking. I do not know. I am like stressed out about this. I actually remember making a mental note being like, and I don't know, not everybody is like me, not everybody's stressed like me. Some people know what they want to do and some people are comfortable with not knowing. But I just was like, when I talk to college kids from now on, like now that I'm older, I was like, I will not ask them what they're doing when they graduate from college, because I was like, if they know what they're doing, they're probably going to tell you. And if they don't know what they're doing, they probably don't want to think about it right now. And so for me, I really enjoyed my time at ECU. It was really fun. I was able to stretch myself in ways like, doing really fun things like snowboarding team, but then also like learning things. Like I thought that I did want to be a DJ and I loved doing that at ECU, but then I was like, I don't know if I want to be in a booth all the time, so I was able to kind of experiment with these different life paths, and it was really fun and I really liked it. And so the idea of kind of going out into the world and not knowing exactly where I was going to have like just as much fun, I was very stressed about. And so, yeah, I didn't really like that question at the time, but I totally get why people ask it because they're excited for you, and I get it. And I've caught myself doing it too. But yeah, for me, no, I didn't know. And if you guys don't know, that's okay. Not many people know. Then when I talked to my friends about it after the fact, they were like, no one knew. Everyone was like, yeah, we didn't know. We were making it up. And I was like, as we go on, it's like, yeah, we kind of all are figuring it out.
Yeah. And so you had that vibe. You weren't sure what you wanted to do. Did you have anything in mind that you knew you didn't want to do?
Yeah. And so that was the great thing about kind of experimenting with different paths. So, I knew that I wanted to do something in media communications. I knew the power of it and how important it is. And so, whether it was going to be something, on the audio side where it would have been, like DJ or radio type situation, or like on like the news side, journalism, which I actually thought that I wanted to do, and I learned that I did not want to do that. And so kind of, and that was from I took journalism 101 or some class, and I was like, oh, I don't really like this. Like, I don't really like, doing this. And, Angelique loved it and she still does it and she's great at it. So it's like different personalities, like different things. And so you get to kind of X off these things that you thought were paths. And it's really helpful to be able to do that when you're in college. And so, yeah, I was like, don't want to be a DJ, don't want to be a journalist. And I was like, okay, so now I'm kind of getting down to being like, do I want to be like a documentary person or like a TV producer or something like that? And so I was kind of honing in on that by the end of my time.
Excellent. And as someone with a criminal justice degree, 4 years in, I figured out, I don't think I want to do this. And my father, word for word, said, the money runs out in May, buddy.
Yep. I mean, that's the reality too. Exactly. When you're graduating college too, you're like, okay, not only do I need to have a job to like pay for my life, but I have like loans to pay back. Like things get real quick. They get real quick.
I already did 5 years. So he said,
Yep.
Money runs out in May. I don't care what degree you get. You can
Get
get another one.
Get out.
But you're off scholarship here. So where did you go? What was the first gig out of undergrad? And was that by your heartfelt choice or by chance?
I moved back home in with my parents because I didn't know what I wanted to do or where I wanted to go. And I actually worked as a substitute teacher for 6 months, which it was, at the time, I'm not sure if it's still the way it was, but they were just really short on subs. So as long as you kind of had a college degree and passed some tests, you could get in. So I did that. And that was great. I love kids. They were super fun. And that's actually what made me realize like I could teach like snowboarding or surfing. So after doing I was moved in with my parents. I was a substitute teacher in Virginia, really liked kindergarten. So I ended up getting a long-term sub position for a month doing kindergarten, and it was so fun. And so I was like, okay, I want to move out west, and let's see what happens. Like, I'll try to get a job. Like at this point, like I knew how to surf, I knew how to snowboard. I was like, I'll go out there and see if I can just like work at a camp. And so I moved out to LA 6 months after graduating college, and then ended up kind of like falling into a job teaching at surfing at a summer camp here. And so I did that, and that was like my first job. I mean, I made nothing, like it was no money. It was definitely for fun, but I also didn't need, I didn't need much. And so, yeah, I was a surf instructor in the summer and then a snowboard instructor in the winter. Yeah, so it kind of each little like dot led me somewhere else,
Yeah. So then you're doing the surfing and snowboarding deal, and then what came after that, and what spurred you to move on to something else?
So while I was doing the like surfing and snowboarding, because it was in LA, so we have LA is amazing for many reasons, but one, like we have the beach and then we have the mountains within an hour and a half. And so on a winter day, you can surf in the morning and then be snowboarding. So I would literally sometimes teach a private surf lesson in the morning, and then I'd drive up and I would do lessons in surf snowboarding. And so, but one of the things that we also have here is like TV, like so many people are in production, even if it's just like day playing as a PA, which is a production assistant, you can get, on different shows. And so when I came out here, I've always been obsessed with nature and animals. Actually, my like senior project for communications for my major was I had to do a persuasive essay, and I chose like the importance of biomass and deforestation of the rainforest. So like I was like talking and being like, don't cut down the rainforest. And so like I've always been obsessed with conservation and the environment. And so a girl that I had met was staffing up a show for Animal Planet, and she was like, do you want a job as like a PA on this show? Like you basically just get coffees for people and help set things up and break stuff down. And I was like, yeah, I 100% do. Like that's my dream network. I want to work for that. So I ended up doing that. And so I started then kind of getting more and more credits in TV. And so that kind of put me on that path. And so by the time I had spent like 4 years as a surf and snowboard instructor, I ended up then deciding to go full into TV. Yeah.
And what, so you've mentioned it a couple times, and I guess spending so much time outdoors with surfing and snowboarding, were you always kind of into conservation and
Yeah, absolutely. And that was one of the things too, I was seeing it change, while I was out in, I was teaching in Malibu and here also in Marina Del Rey. And just like over even the 4 years that I was out there, just more and more trash was like washing up on my board and more, and it's just something that you're physically seeing, like if you're experiencing it. And so, when I got into TV, it was to eventually want to work on, either nature documentaries or like nature shows that inspire people to change. Like I was obsessed with BBC Earth. I've like watched it like 1,000 times and the behind the scenes of it. Like I was obsessed with it. And so that was kind of the ultimate goal, was to get on these types of shows so I could, try to like help get the message up that way.
Right. Awesome. So you went full-time TV. And then kind of what did that look like at the beginning? I know you started with the PA gigs, but once you went full time, what was that like?
So that was, it was interesting. So I remember when I decided that I wanted to, there's kind of like two different paths. And for anybody who's like listening, who's interested in working in TV, there's one way that you can go, which is like the PA route. And that's like, you're on set and you're like, it's really fun, it's exciting, and you're hustling and you're like building things up and you're like in the mix and you're watching it get filmed and everything. And that's like definitely a way to move up, but it's kind of harder to do that because it's hard to get promoted in that, because there's kind of the people who do those jobs and it's tough. And so a way around that is the executive assistant route, which I didn't want to do. I didn't know to do. I was 29 at the time. And I was like, okay, if I really want to get serious at working in TV, I've tried already going up as fast as, like, I had gotten up to associate producer and I was stuck. And I was like, if I really want to be able to get to the next level, I need to have like the higher ups trust me. I need to be like an executive assistant. I need to learn how to speak their language and understand this. So I actually took like a huge pay cut and a huge demotion basically to then be an executive assistant. So I kind of climbed this ladder and then went down and started on this ladder. And so I remember on my 29th birthday, I started as an assistant with other people who were like 22, 23, right out of college. And it was humbling, you're like, all right, here we go. Like, this is where I'm at. And I was an assistant to 2 producers of their own production company. And so from them, I was able to learn like, kind of the workings of a show and how these things all kind of work together as a business and all the things that you don't get when you're on set. And so that was incredibly helpful. And that's kind of what allowed me to then move up very fast, kind of in the ranks in TV. And so eventually, before I started Bite, I had gone all the way from like, starting as a executive assistant to then like a associate producer, production coordinator, like producer, show producer. Then it was an integration producer. And then that's when I started Bite. So yeah, sometimes you got to go down to go up.
Yeah. And the skill sets for these jobs, is it kind of the kind of thing like, I've just got the drive and I work hard and I can figure it out? Or did you have to kind of learn somewhere else and learn on the job? What are the skill sets required, and how did you get them?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's learning on the job, learning on the job and trying to like be able to figure out who is like who you can learn from, like who does a really good job at their job, and then take the things that they're doing well. Like I always kind of saw it as I was building my tool belt. So everything that I did, I was taking this tool and putting it away and like, oh, that's a good way to deal with this, and put that there, and that's a good way to do this. And so kind of just assembling this toolkit of, when you work with so many different people, they have so many different ways of doing things. Some things are really effective and some things aren't. So it's kind of just taking those and then folding them into your style and the way you do things.
Oh my gosh, I'm going to pull that clip and ask anybody who has a class full of juniors and seniors to just play like how to learn on the job without, making anything formal, but watching the people who do their job well.
Yeah.
Kind of collecting that information and seeing how they do it, how they treat people. Awesome. So you got there, and then Bite. Was this something you had in mind all along? How was Bite birthed?
So Bite was entirely accident. Like it was something that I would have never expected. I was working on the show House Hunters, which meant I was flying all over the country, like every week filming, and you only are there for a few days. And so I was always carry on only. And so I was going through those little toothpaste tubes, and I'd always been really passionate about the environment. And so my shampoo stuff, like everything had been refillable, but I couldn't refill my toothpaste. And I was like, this is driving me crazy. Cause like, not only was it bad for the environment, but also like I had to buy a new one like every other week. I was like, this is a lot to keep up with. It's a lot to make sure I always have toothpaste. And so I wanted to look into what there was as alternatives for me to solve my problem. And there was nothing that was out there. And then from that research, I started learning about like how bad actually the plastic really is, like of tooth. So like, you know, your traditional toothpaste tube is a mixed material, which means it can't be recycled. Even if you cut it open, cleaned it out, put it in your recycling bin, it's going to get trashed. It can't be recycled. And so, and then even if it could, only 9% of plastic is getting recycled anyway. So it's like, it's so wasteful in terms of a way to deliver oral care. And so, and that's also when I started learning about all of the harsh chemicals, the artificial flavors, dyes, sweeteners that was in that. And I was just like, oh, I don't want anything to do with this. So I started making my own. I took online chemistry classes. I started talking to dentists, dental hygienists, and just like learning. And again, it was the same thing where it's like, I don't know what I'm doing. So I'm going to gotta figure that. First thing is to figure out like, how to figure out what I don't know and like how to kind of do these things and like move up. And so I kind of started just getting obsessed with it. And I was using the toothpaste tablets for myself on my trips for House Hunters. And then I started selling them online. And so when I started selling them online, that was kind of the beginning of the business. But it was just like my friends, like in the vegan community and the zero waste community. And so it was very small. And that's kind of how it all started. It was just kind of like, well, I'm making this, I've invested money in this, like I've invested a lot of time at this point and money, like in machinery. I should probably just start selling this and like break even. And so that's kind of how it all started.
Wow. And I was going to say, did you have a target audience for when you started? And it sounds like were those people you knew? Was there a Facebook group? Facebook was around by then, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So Facebook was around definitely. And it was kind of the beginning. I mean, influencer marketing was definitely a thing, you know, but sustainability hadn't really become cool yet. I feel like it's very cool now. Like everybody wants to, which is amazing. We need that. That's how we get innovation. That's how we get really good solutions. But at the time it was still like very, fringe. And so the communities for these things were very, very small, but very passionate. And so because like I've been a vegan for a really long time and like I've been trying to live a low waste lifestyle for a long time, I kind of knew some of these influencers. And so some of them were like my friends, like actual friends. And so when I released it, they were so proud of me and they wanted to be like, hey, but, and also it fills that problem for them. You know what I'm saying? Like if you don't want to use something that's like tested on animals and there's a solution, you're going to share it with your little audience. And so that's what happened. And actually it was like at first it was all names of people I knew like in my sales. And then it started being like, oh my God, I don't know this person. I don't know this person. I don't know that person. And yeah.
Very cool. And I'm sure exhilarating as it's kind of all building.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how did the old Greenville, North Carolina reggae DJ end up with an audience with, my gosh, I've forgotten his name, Mark Cuban and the Sharks?
Yeah. It's a really good question. Yeah, it definitely, so we had a video go viral. So when we started out, we're like super niche, which I think is really good advice to anyone wanting to start a business right now is like, you don't go for everybody. If you say your product's for everybody, it's actually for nobody. Make your product for a very specific group of people who are very passionate about your solution. And so for me, it's kind of like I accidentally did that because I made it for myself and I was very passionate about these two things. And so it kind of echoed. And from there, we had a video go viral on Facebook. Women's Health had made it about like female founded businesses. They like spliced together some iPhone footage and they put together this like awesome video. And when that video went viral, then we had like, Forbes was calling and Business Insider, and we had, all these other videos that would go viral. And so then Shark Tank was like, hey, do you want to audition for Shark Tank? And at the time it was 2018, like I didn't even have business insurance. Like we were not supposed to go viral. Like I was not expecting having to put my job in TV. Like it was so I was like, absolutely not. Like, let's talk next season. I was like, I'm totally overwhelmed right now. And so then it was, fast forward a year, they were like, hey, we're casting again. Would you be interested in auditioning? And so at this point, my boyfriend had joined as co-founder, and we had things under control a little bit more. And we were like, yeah, we're going to do it. And they're totally upfront, being like, even if Shark Tank approaches you, you have no better or worse chance of getting on the show. It's just kind of like they have producers, and like I kind of know that too from, same with the House Hunters. Like you go out and you try to find people who you think would be a good fit, but then it's the producer's decision on who gets on. So we auditioned and we got it. And then we got up on stage, or like we got on there, and it's great. What's funny that I never thought about with the show is that businesses, like the show, it doesn't get shot like in a void, right? Like everyone who goes on that show is still running their business like when they're shooting. So we were like on the phone dealing with an issue like going on with our manufacturer, like right before we went on stage. Like we're like, we gotta figure this out, you're like by a trailer in the back being like, what John, we need to get this done, I'd be like, hold on, I gotta shoot Shark Tank. And so it doesn't end, and especially when you're a small business, it was just really the two of us. So we went up there, we pitched, and the Sharks were incredibly kind. They were pumped about the idea, which we did not. I mean, that's best case scenario. And like, of course there are a few hard questions, gotta be some drama, but I mean, it was so nice. And we ended up getting 2 offers from Mark Cuban and Kevin O'Leary. But we had gone in there, we had already had like a good amount of sales. And so by the time we, went up there, like we weren't willing to negotiate too much. Like we came in what was fair. And that was basically what we knew we would go up to. So we couldn't get there, but it was just business. But it was an amazing experience.
Was that hard to say no, or I'm imagining you had the meeting beforehand and said, all right, it's got to be this, or we say no and don't think about, was that a hard?
That's exactly it. Oh, it was so hard. So, cause like it was, at the time, so before we went on there, Asher and I had sat down and we were like, this is the max we're going to go. And this is what we're going to do. And we're not going to like, cause then I knew too, like there's cameras in your face, excuse me, there's cameras in your face. Like you're going to feel really pressured to like, maybe just like do it, just whatever. So it's like, you have to have your number and stick to it, because you're going to lose your mind at the time. You know what I'm saying? And so it was like, all right, how do we do this? And so when we were there, sure enough, it happened where we're like up there and we're like, we were talking and we are like, okay, we're not where we want to be, but do we just want to do this? And I was just thinking, and I was like, it would just be so easy to just be like, yes. And then it's like, you get the hug, and then you get the, you know what I'm saying? And like, you get the deal. And I was just like, I could just say yes. Like we could just do it. Like it's Mark Cuban. But then I was like, but we're not at our number, and I'm gonna, I can't get swept up. And so I like, can't like, it was like out of body experience of like, no, it's just like, okay. So yeah, I mean, that was basically it. So, and then it was it. They were super nice. He was so nice about it. He was like, oh, like I get it. You got sales. You feel like you're on top of the world. And we were just like, okay, like that's it. So yeah, really nice.
Aside from the business aspect, and you said it, like the fact that it's, oh my God, it's Mark Cuban though. But
I know that in my head, I was like, but it's Mark Cuban though. It's Mark Cuban though. But I was like,
your experience in TV and kind of being around people, famous people, do you think that helped kind of take some of the edge and some of the, I have to do what this person says, take some of that away maybe?
So I think having a background in TV was really helpful for like many things, but for sure that, because like it was, I put myself in someone else's position who had never been on a stage before, who had never been on like, around a set, and you're just like, what? But for me, I'm like, oh, I'm home. I know this. Like, like, where's my walkie-talkie? So like that, I felt very like, and so it was easier. It was just a person across from you, as opposed to, this gigantic entity.
Yeah, absolutely. Excellent. And now, so I'll ask the hard question. Between now and then, have you ever looked back and said, we should have taken it? Or
Ah,
I won't say.
no, I know. Yeah, it's a good question. It's a
But
good
have
question.
you ever looked back and said, maybe?
Okay, so the next day, for sure, I had like regret. I was like scared, right? I was like, what have I done? You know, like, did I make the right choice? Like, oh my God. And you're exhausted, right? Like you're like emotionally, physically, spiritually, like just tapped out. So I woke up the next day being like, should I have taken the deal? Like, did I mess this up? And so I like had to like breathe through it. And then I was just like, no, like we needed to stick with it. And now, you know, fast forward, no one knows what the future will hold. But like fast forward, it's like, oh my God, like that would have been such a good deal for Mark. Like he should have taken the deal. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, all right, like doesn't matter. Like it all worked out. But that's, you know, that's kind of for sure. There was like after it, I was just like very very what, and that's okay. You just ride it out. You ride it out. Yeah.
Awesome. So I'll ask you this question. Are you in your dream job? Is this maybe not the job you dreamed about when you were a little kid, but do you feel like you are in the right space and where you want to be now? And you're no longer doing TV and this, correct?
Just
You're
this.
out of TV now?
Yeah. Yeah. Just this. I love it. I think that I feel so lucky and like I have the best job in the world. And there's definitely, you know, having your own business, especially, it can get like really stressful. It's definitely not something that's like a 9 to 5. You don't clock out. There's no true vacations when you have a company that's growing like this right now. But I wouldn't trade it for anything. And, you know, I get to do really cool things where we made like a video for Earth Day about, you know, basically the taking back Earth Day, about like, you know, how commercialized it's been. And like, I get to do those things that I wanted to do in TV because we have the money, we have the gear, we bought a bunch of gear, like we have TV cameras now, you know, so it's like, I can shoot a documentary if I want. I don't have time, but I could. And so it's kind of like, I get to, you know, run a business, do what I want, make the world better, which is like the whole point, you know, of this. And I think, yeah, it's been fun.
Awesome. So what's the biggest lesson you've learned throughout your career? And maybe two lessons, but kind of one of the biggest takeaways and lessons you've learned throughout this journey thus far.
I think, you know, one of them is definitely, I feel like it's such a cliche, not like trust the process. I wish there was a better, less cliche than trust the process, but the idea that like, you're basically just, you're plotting a lot of dots and just like, if you can, like, just trust that if you're doing what you want to do and you're working really hard and you're, you know, you're continuing to get better at your craft, as long as you just keep following that, the dots will come together. So, because when I look back and I see like, you know, TV producer, like my travel stuff, my, you know, I used to travel YouTube channel, like, but I didn't make money, just doing it for fun, but like the travel YouTube channel, then like surf instructor, it's all so random. But then when it comes together, what I'm doing right now, it all makes so much sense. And so like hindsight's 2020, you're in the process of getting those dots, you know, and so just keep going with that. And I think for me, I was pretty good at trusting the process usually, like enjoying it, but sometimes I was really, really stressed. And I would have told myself back there, like, remember, like, just go with the dots. Like it's gonna be, they're all gonna connect.
Yes.
So yeah, that's what I think I would say.
Yes. And I'm a trust the process guy, so much
Yeah,
to the point that my 8-year-old has said it back to me.
it's a
we,
smart kid.
we've got issues with him trying to cut corners and just kind of going through the motions. And I was like, no, you've got to give it, you know, invest yourself in this and trust the process. And I was complaining about something and he said to me, trust the process, Dad. I was like, okay, I get it. But I am a trust the process guy, but hearing your story almost makes me think of the line, and I don't know who exactly said it, but it's fall in love with the process of getting better and learning. And it sounds like you were very much invested and in love with your growth process. So it's so interesting to hear all of those things, and each of them seems like it was a passion for you, and that there doesn't seem like you ever had a job that you were like, I'm going to go to where I'm going to clock in, clock out, get my paycheck. Like all of these things seemed to be things you believed in and felt in your heart. So I would trust the process, but fall in love with the
Yeah,
process.
I love that. Yeah, I really
That's
like
what
that.
that looks like.
Yeah.
Let me see if I've got any questions here. We're going to take some further. If you have questions for Lindsay, please put them in the chat or the Q&A. Jim Westmoreland has wonderful things to say and says ECU is very proud of you,
Oh, thank you.
which I agree. So were there any parts of this journey that you thought would be much easier? Your journey's been kind of self-driven, so there wasn't like I had to do this awful internship, but any parts of this that were harder than you expected, and you can go back to any specific class or exam or all the way through.
Yeah, I think you know, in college, it was interesting. I feel like a skill that I learned, I don't even know if I should be saying this on this kind of talk, but like what I learned in college was play to your strengths. And the reason, and that's actually like really good business advice too. It's like, you know, play to your strengths and hire for your weaknesses. As opposed to kind of the mentality of like, you have to be good at everything. Right. And so the idea was, I knew that I would have to take classes that I had no interest in, right? I had to take like whatever basic math class you have to take and whatever. And so I was like, okay, how do I like, what's the class that I can take with like my best chance of doing well in this class, knowing that I'm not going to like it very much, you know, and just being like, okay, just get through that class and then, you know, fill your schedule with things that you do like. And I think that, I mean, I know that sounds like very basic, but it was something that I would kind of look at my friends and they would be like, oh no, I'm taking this because I feel like I need to know how to do accounting. And I'm like, that is going, if you're not interested in accounting, that's going to be like really hard for you to have in and like YouTube really wasn't a big thing at the time, but it's like, I spend a lot of time learning about accounting now because it's relevant to me and I have to know it. And so I watch YouTube videos on it. But I think it's kind of like, you know, when you're in college, trying to make sure that you're taking classes that can play to your strengths, the things that you're interested in will make it so much easier. And so that's kind of what I did also in like life. Like I didn't know, like I didn't take a job. I mean, when I was an assistant, that was the only job that I took where I was like, I have no interest in being in an office, you know, 12 hours a day. I had to get there at like 7 a.m. and I didn't leave until 7 or 8 o'clock at night because you need to get there before the first person arrives and the last person leaves. You know, and that was not something that I was like pumped to do, but I wanted to learn from these really smart people. And so I was able to kind of overlook the stuff that I like didn't like I didn't like having to wear like office casual stuff. I didn't like all this stuff, but I was like, you know what? I want to learn from these people and I am, and it's like, and that's what I saw. So it's kind of like, if you do have to do something you don't like doing, find something that you like in it. But if you can avoid doing things that play to your strengths, just like keep doing that. And that's what I do at Bike too. I have to do a lot of stuff that I'm not good at, that I have to get better at, but I also like hire really smart people who are good at that. And I trust them to do their job. And then I work on my superpower. So, yeah.
And, you know, not for nothing, but you saw a thing you wanted to do and said, well, I need to learn chemistry. So you took
Yeah, and I've never taken chemistry in college. I mean, actually, it's the only class in high school. I had to go to summer school for chemistry. It's the only class. It's the only class ever. And so that was just goes to show it's like just most likely you're not good at something because you're not interested in it. You know what I'm saying? Like I wasn't interested in chemistry at the time. So I got a C and I had to go to, or I got a D and I had to go to summer school, get a better grade, you know, and now here I was like, you know, 20 years later or however many years later, like, you know, taking it on a Saturday night and like making a product from it. So you never know what's gonna end up.
So we've got a question here from one of our audience members. Was it hard to move to LA so far from family and friends with no set plan and job? I'm thinking about moving away for grad school, but have some doubts.
That's a great question. I didn't see it as hard because I was so excited. So for me, the excitement definitely went over the fear. I always saw it as, and I still, you know, and I don't know if it's because if you're going to grad school, that would feel a little differently, but the way that I always kind of looked at it too is that if I don't like it, I can always go home. So it's not that big, you know, for me, it was like, I kept, you know, my overhead very low, my bills very low. So it was kind of like, I just it wasn't that big of a deal to move out there. And I was like, if I don't like it, I'll just have a great road trip across the country and move home. So, and I think that's typically a helpful way when looking at decisions, kind of being like, to get brave, would be like, I can always take this back if I need to, if it's a decision where you could do that. So.
Awesome. Another one we got, recently changed my major to communications, concentrating in mass media. Not sure what path to go down yet, but I enjoy speaking up about the things I care about, and I am good at social media marketing. What kind of internship job would you recommend?
Oh, that's a great question. So what I can say, let me think. So I think the first thing that would be the most helpful, and this is something that we look for at Byte, is that if it's something that you're interested in, start doing it yourself. So, if you're interested in something, like, I don't know, like any of your passion, like maybe starting a social media account where you're doing that already. So you're like making those like informational posts, like making memes, making, those things. So you're getting that out there, because that's going to help you. Like, you're going to learn how to like tell stories and Instagram posts and do all those kind of things. And then it's also going to help anybody who you want to work for to see like, oh, like she really likes this, or he really likes this. Beyond just like a 9 to 5, like it's a passion that's even outside of the career. So I think that's the first thing to do, would be to kind of start doing it yourself. And don't worry if it's bad, it doesn't matter. It's just you're just like doing it, you're gonna get better at it. Like my first YouTube channel, that's how I learned how to make my own videos. And like my first videos were terrible. Like they're so bad. I look back and I cringe. I'm like, oh, the timing and everything, like fonts are terrible. But it's like, I did it because I loved it. And at the time I thought it was great, right? I was like, oh my God, this is so good. But it's like, you'll get better and just keep doing it. And then I would probably, to get an internship, I would maybe like, you could apply to like the bigger brands that are doing like really cool things. But I think, the best thing at first would to be kind of doing it yourself, and to have something to fall back on. Cause I think that's what they're gonna look for. They're gonna be like, what does she have that she's making herself?
Excellent, thank you. And so as we bring it in for a landing here, and our time is running out, we've got the rapid fire questions for you if you're ready for them.
I'm ready.
All right. Number one, tell us some of your favorite things to do or places to go while you were at ECU.
519. I can't remember, what was the really nice gym called, the big one? Was it Joyner? Is that it's like the ECU gym. It was like the big ECU gym. I forgot what it's called.
Campus Rec Center. It's named after Dr. Eakin now, but
okay, I don't know who it was. Yeah, but that gym, I was there all the time. And 519 was really fun. And then, man, I think that was Big Apple Pizza. I don't know if they're still there, but they used to have like dollar slices. We went there a lot.
You could almost do reunions, not by class, but like what your favorite pizza place was when it was there.
Yeah.
Those kind of places change so often, or your favorite bar in a spot that it was called this during these years and this during these years.
Even when I was there, I feel like things were like changing with names. I wonder, is 519 even there? I don't even know. Yeah, it was good.
Yes, such as university town, college towns.
Yes.
Can you share with us a favorite quote, something you find inspiring?
Ooh, I guess two. So one is, things work out the best for people who make the best of what turns out, or things turn out the best for people who make the best of what turns out. I butchered that, but if you Google the quote, someone way smarter than me said it, but I think about it a lot, because it's basically about kind of like working with the hand you're dealt, and trying to make it work for you. And also like being optimistic, I think, is really helpful as well. And then something that we say at Byte all the time, especially because we're small and we're up against the big guys, is like better, faster. So that's our whole thing, is just get better, get better faster. And like, we're going to make mistakes. It's going to happen, things or whatever, but just keep getting better, keep that faster. And that's how people win.
Awesome. Awesome. How about a favorite study, experiment, or bit of research?
Oh man, I'll do a class that was totally random at ECU that I took. I took physics of the universe. That was like the science class that I had to take because I was like, oh, I have to take a science class. Like, I'm not taking biology. So I was like, I got to take something. And so I took physics of the universe. I loved it. Had no idea I would love it so much. And I did really, really well, which I would have never thought. So yeah, and I still am obsessed with, I still love space. I like got into space with that class, and like I go to the space talks here at Griffith Observatory, and yeah, it was the beginning of a long affair with outer space.
And in a whole separate conversation, when we get out to the West Coast, we'll have a beverage and talk about space travel and the fact that we sent an object into space like within the past week. I found out about it on Facebook. Like,
Yeah,
the world used to stop when we did that.
It's like it's like the space wars right now. You know, there's like Elon Musk firing stuff up. Like everybody's shooting stuff up in space right now.
I found out about like 2 days later.
Yeah. You're like, it's routine at this point, I guess.
Yeah.
Trying to get us to Mars.
How about a favorite book?
Ooh, you know what? This is I feel like I'm an ad right now, but I read these all the freaking time. Ryan Holiday and their books on stoicism. One of them is called The Obstacle is the Way, Stillness is the Key, and Ego is the Enemy. My mom got this for me when Bite went viral, and I was freaking out. Like, I was like so panicked. I've like never had a panic attack, and I was like having panic attacks like on the weekly. And so she got this for me, and I was reading it, and it's just a really helpful like way to look at the world. So anything with stoicism, but Ryan Holiday makes it very accessible, which is why I like it.
Excellent. How about a favorite tool that you've been using, whether that can be an app, a kitchen tool, a yard tool, anything like that?
So we just, as a team, we just downloaded something called Asana, which is basically, it's just like an app where we can all, it's a really good way to track progress of a team. And so we're kind of always trying to like grow and everything. But I think my favorite tool is oh my God, Final Cut. So that's how you edit videos. That's how I feel, which is like my favorite thing. So that's my go-to.
Excellent. And then how about a favorite habit?
Meditating. So I meditate every morning, at least for 15 minutes, and that will 100% help. I think anybody, but like definitely with me, saying like even throughout the day and being able to like just basically keep my battery charged for way longer, which is totally needed when you're running your own business. And so yeah, meditation every day, 15 minutes in the morning, which is a small amount for the benefits you get.
Yeah. And somebody put me on to breathing, like taking 1 minute to essentially meditate, but to breathe in between things that you're doing while working from home. So I went from a meeting to something else and then back to something else. And it's just take 1 minute. Don't think about what you just did or where you're going. Just take a minute to breathe and then get to the next thing. And I haven't stayed with it consistently, but the times that I did it, it was like, wow, I wish I was disciplined enough to take the 15 minutes, but I'm going to try it. I'm going to do it tomorrow.
Yeah.
You've inspired me. And then we'll close out with, do you have a final word or challenge to Pirate alumni or students out there?
Yeah. So, you know, for us, the whole mission of Bite is trying to make a more sustainable planet. And so I think, you know, right now there's so much attention to the plastic free and zero waste movement, which is so exciting. And it can be super, super, super accessible. So, you know, kind of no matter what you're doing and how busy you are, there's usually something that you can do to just kind of be a little bit more eco-friendly and like a little bit more sustainable. And I think that there's so many resources, so definitely check out our website on how to do that. And it doesn't have to feel like a sacrifice. I think that's a lot of people just think that making these choices is going to be a lot of work, or, you know, it's going to feel not as good. But like our thing is really wanting to make it like fun and make it feel like something you want to be part of. But you know, whether even if it's just instead of getting a coffee every day in a to-go cup, like bringing a mason, like bringing your little mason jar. And actually mason jars are amazing because there's like ounces on the side. So the barista will know where to go. And so it's like, those are the kind of easy hacks that it's just like, you don't have to buy anything new. You don't have to spend a bunch of money. There's things that you can do really easily that really have a really high impact. So that would be my one thing to say would be to make a little difference every day.
Awesome. Well, thank you. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. This was great, Lindsay. I'm honestly, I'm inspired and just love your energy and your story. And so if you folks want to learn more about Bite Toothpaste brand, the links are in the chat for your reference. You can get in touch with Lindsay at her LinkedIn page, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
And I think we'll put those links in the chat as well. We hope you'll all continue to be engaged with us both in this time while we're apart, and hopefully that that window is shrinking a little bit as the light at the end of the tunnel doesn't so much sound like a train anymore. We hope you'll stay with us while we're apart, but certainly afterwards. And to learn more about the Alumni Association and what we do, go to www.piratealumni.com. We have a ton of resources, virtual resources there. Please visit and take a look at our other items of interest. The association functions based on gifts from our donors. So if you are inclined to do so, please consider a gift to the Alumni Association commensurate with your ability to give and your passion. They're all certainly very appreciated. Please keep an eye on our social media outlets as we go forward and offer our new virtual findings. Our next Pirates Path is May 25th with Fielding Miller, class of '07. So thank you all for joining us. Again, thank you, Lindsay, for your time and for sharing your story with us. Look forward to seeing and hearing all the continued fantastic things you do. And like I said, when we get out to the West Coast, we will have coffee or something stronger, depending on how things are going.
That sounds great. Please do. Thanks so much for having me, Scott. This was so fun.
Awesome. Until next time, Pirates, thanks for joining us, and we'll talk soon.
Go Pirates.
Go Pirates.